Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Before we get started today, I do want to mention that I'm wearing my Authortube Writing Conference shirt, so I'm going to move my microphone aside so you can get a better view of it. The Authortube Writing Conference is brought to us by Jenna O'Malley and Esty Houston, and it will be on July 15th through the 17th. There's going to be a link in the description below for more information, and by the time this video gets uploaded, there will be a long list of wonderful speakers so that we can come together as a community and learn from everyone's experiences. So I hope to see you there. Now, tonight only, the first person point of view will take on the third person point of view in a fight to the death, where the winner will foreafter be known as the stylistic choice for authors. While it's not that dramatic, the point of view we use when writing our novels is one of the most critical decisions in how those are perceived by readers. Learn from my mistakes. When I started writing that first novel, I pantsed the solution, which means I didn't plan, outline, or even think about what was to come. Now, that's not typical for pantsers, but in my case, that's how I wrote. I started with a first person point of view and kept going. Then I decided that my story needed to be told from a different person's point of view, so I switched to a rotating first person point of view. Now that can work, it just didn't for me. 3 full revisions later, I realized that the point of view was wrong for the story. I went back and changed it to a third person rotating point of view. That was a lot of work. What are the strengths and weaknesses of these different narration styles? That's what tonight's episode is all about, so that when you make your choice, you can do so wisely. I'm going back up and start from the start. Think of the first person point of view as having the narrator's head replaced with a camera. We see what they see, we hear what they hear, and we think what they think. This narration style is defined by using the words I, me, we, etc. I climbed the mountain. I was terrified to fight the dragon. I ran shirtless in the rain. Now that last one was just to check to make sure that you're all still listening. This can be present or past tense so long as the narrator's filter is removed. In essence, we are the narrator, or we are being told the story by them, so that we are an active participant in the story. Third person is slightly removed, so it's like we're sitting on the narrator's shoulder. We can still see, hear, and think what they think, but there is an additional step. Bob climbed the mountain. Terror consumed Bob at the sheer size of the dragon, its fiery breath melting his iron sword along with his nerves. He ran screaming from the cave, having ditched his heavy armor. Why should we use either style? In general, young adult stories tend to use the first person point of view, though that's not required. I think this is the preferred narration style because first person point of view is excellent at drawing in readers and establishing that intimate connection with them. That intimacy comes with a price. First-person stories are limited in what they can convey. If the narrator doesn't know something, then it breaks that story to include it. In my opinion, shifting the point of view merely to show the villain-splaining is a band-aid. When the story needs that scene to make sense, there are likely plot hole, consistency, and character motivation issues across it. The one exception is if the story is being told to us, and the narrator decides to add in flair with something like, "Little did I know then, I was in for a rough night." I'm still not the biggest fan of that storytelling mechanic, but I can at least understand it. That's how I might tell a story if I were with a friend and we were sitting around a campfire. Another weakness of the first person point of view is the high volume of I's, as in I did this, then I did that. It can be off-putting. Too many I's make a story sound like one giant brag, or make readers like me mentally check out. If this was the point of view that you choose to use, then make an effort to remove those I's. We already know things happen to the narrator, so having too many I's is redundant. Both the positive and negative of the first person point of view is that it's easier to integrate untrustworthy narrators. This can make twists hit harder as we feel the narrator discovering details at the same time as us readers. On the other hand, twists can feel unearned, and betrayals by untrustworthy narrators have ruined otherwise good books. I'm tired of finding out that we were in the killer's head all along, and that they had no reaction to being at the crime scene or in other moments which should have given them away. That's not good storytelling, that breaks the fundamentals of the point of view. Going back to my origin as a writer, in that first story, I put myself in the narrator's shoes and told the story as they would. I didn't know any better, nor did I plan ahead, so I started page 1 with the first person point of view. Well, that was a mistake for me and my story. After a long time to think and a great amount of hesitation, I realized that the story would be better told from a rotating third person point of view. All that means is that we will be on the narrator's shoulder with some insight into their thoughts. The third person point of view uses pronouns when describing the narrator, such as he, she, they, or their name. Arguably, the best strength of the third person point of view is the ease at which you can tell a grander story. The reading experience is expanded, especially if you use multiple narrators to each provide their own insight. In this way, different pieces of the story can fit together for readers. We can learn an important detail from an expert narrator, while the detective narrator searches for more clues. Third-person points of view are also great at cutaways. One narrator could be trapped in a burning building and then the chapter ends. We switch to a different narrator who is in a race against time to defuse a bomb. By choosing where and how to switch perspectives, it can control tension and keep readers wanting more. Unlike the direct connection of first-person points of view, third-person points of view feel like we are friends with the narrator or narrators. We see how they react or make decisions, as well as how they perceive the world. We as writers should aim to use an emotional narrative voice to infuse personality into our stories in ways which the first-person narrative struggles to achieve. The third-person point of view feels more objective and less biased. This allows us to focus on hiding details in plain sight without having to rely on an untrustworthy narrator for our twist. One overlooked benefit of the third-person point of view is the inherent tension in that we don't know that character survives. With first person, we can't assume that they live, so they're able to tell their story. That's not necessarily true for third person, and it's not necessarily true for first person, but it is kind of implied. On the downside, a third-person point of view includes a level of abstraction which separates the narrator from the reader. That makes it more difficult to establish a connection. Also, when writing a third-person point of view, it can seem easy to create a scene which hops between narrators. Please don't do that. I've read fight scenes where we hopped around between different narrators and bounced around within the chaos. In one paragraph, a person was referred to externally, then we shifted into their thoughts, and then we shifted again into another narrator's point of view within that fight. Those scenes are always a mess, and the end result is that I don't know what's going on, and I stop caring. I could have gone back to reread the moment and understand it, but honestly, the rotating POVs brought down an already bad story. I powered through the read, rather than care about who survived. My point is to be careful and to maintain consistency in who is telling the story. Rotating characters can work, but it takes work to make them work. Each of these shifts in rotating points of view should be clearly established, whether at a section or chapter break, or if you really want to add in extra character turns between paragraphs where the point of view changes. That last one is still confusing, so I highly recommend switching points of view only at significant breaks rather than mid-scene. Those are some of the differences between first and third person points of view. I kept things high level and generic without diving into subcategories such as third person omniscient or third person limited. As the second person point of view is a lot more complicated, I ain't touch it at all. I hope I gave you a lot to consider when you're deciding what point of view to write in. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write. If you enjoyed another writing lesson, then please press those like and subscribe buttons. Let me know in those comments about the perfect point of view, or an instance where you wish they'd used a different style. Do you agree with my opinions, or is everything I said wrong? I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Running to Write, so be sure to follow me and join in with your own thoughts. Don't forget to sign up for my Running to Write monthly newsletter if you want regular updates on my assorted musings, pitfalls, and lessons learned. I'll also include relevant milestones in running and writing. See you next time. Until then, choose your story's point of view wisely. Trust me, it is a pain to switch later.